Hi guys, Steve here in Palm Springs. Does the name Humphrey Pearson ring a bell with any of you? I have to be honest, and I don't remember ever hearing his name before, but he was actually pretty well known back in his day. One of my subscribers, Tammy Allen, just left me a comment the other day letting me know that he died in this house right here on Arenas Road in the historic Tennis neighborhood, which is right downtown. It's just a couple of blocks west of Palm Canyon Drive, the main street in downtown Palm Springs. And I was actually here just a few nights ago, and I guess she was too. If you watch my video on the walk that I took, the walking tour of the historic inns and hotels of Palm Springs, then you may know which home I'm talking about. It was the former home of actress Gloria Swanson. Well, as we were taking a tour of the home, I did hear someone who was working there say, I don't know if it was one of the owners or who it was, but I did hear someone say that Gloria Swanson had rented out a room or one of the casitas, or maybe it was a friend of hers that she was just allowing to stay there. And he wrote one of the Tarzan books, or maybe it was one of the Tarzan screenplays. I can't remember. There was so much going on. If you watch that video, you know what I mean. There were like hundreds of people everywhere, and everybody was talking, and it was definitely information overload and lots of things happening. So I just heard bits and pieces of different conversations. So I was thinking, well, wasn't that Edgar Rice Burroughs who wrote Tarzan and wrote the Tarzan books? So I don't know if he lived here at the time. I wouldn't be at all surprised. This was back at the time when he was alive and writing his books. So I heard that little tidbit of information, but Tammy overheard, I guess she was here walking, and in her comment, she didn't say that she took the tour as well, but I guess she must have been on the tour. I don't know if we were at the home at the same time, but she said when she was there that someone who worked there was saying that when Gloria Swanson sold her home, she sold it to Humphrey Pearson. Now, Pearson was a screenwriter at the time, and he was working, I think, primarily with Mervyn LeRoy, who was a producer in Hollywood at the time. And if you're a fan of The Wizard of Oz, that name probably sounds familiar because he produced The Wizard of Oz. Well, I guess Humphrey Pearson wrote a lot of screenplays. I don't know if they were all written for Mervyn LeRoy or just some of them, but Mervyn LeRoy also lived down here in Palm Springs. So that happened a lot, where a lot of the celebrities and the directors and the producers and writers, they all lived down here, and they were friends, and they would come down here on the weekends and socialize, and then they would go back up to Hollywood to actually work during the week. So Tammy said that while she was taking the tour, the person said that Gloria Swanson sold this home, which is now the Amin Casa Historic Inn, but at the time it was her home with a number of guest houses surrounding the pool, and she sold it to Pearson. He wrote, I believe, almost 24 very popular screenplays. And his final screenplay that he wrote right before he died was called Palm Springs. Have any of you seen that? I've never seen it. I'm going to look and see if I can find it on YouTube or somewhere else and stream it. I would love to watch it. It came out in 1936, and then he died in 1937. And it was his last screenplay. It was the last movie that was made from one of his screenplays. If you have watched it, tell us about it. Share your review. That would be really interesting to hear. So I'm definitely going to search for it myself. But in case I don't find it, I mean, it was 1936. A lot of the older movies like that aren't necessarily available anymore. Some are available on YouTube, so fingers crossed this one is. So anyway, getting back to the story, thank you, Tammy, for letting me know about this. So immediately after I read her comment, I Googled Humphrey Pearson, and he does have a Wikipedia page, and it was very interesting to hear about his life story, and to confirm that he really did die here in Palm Springs. Now, on his Wikipedia page, and also I think did he have a Finding Grave Memorial page? Yes, that's right. So his Wikipedia page says that he died in Hollywood, so I'm thinking, okay, well, that doesn't sound right. And then I thought, well, maybe if he was shot here in this home, because that's how he died, he was shot. Maybe, I mean, this was back in the 1930s, before the city was even a city. Palm Springs didn't become an official city until 1938, and he was living down here and writing about Palm Springs in 1935, 36, and died in 37. And so I'm thinking, well, maybe they transported him back to Hollywood and maybe he died there. But I think what really happened was I looked at his Find a Grave Memorial page, and it said that he died in Palm Springs. and that he was cremated at Hollywood Forever Cemetery. And a lot of famous people have been cremated there, and not all of them are necessarily buried there. So he was cremated, and then his wife had his ashes transferred to Forest Lawn in Glendale. You know, Forest Lawn, where singer Michael Jackson is laid to rest there, and Walt Disney, and so many others. Many of the greats from back in the day are buried there. And so his Fighting Grave memorial page says his ashes were placed in a vault and are not open to the public, or not. They're not even really sure where they are anymore. His wife is located there. His ashes might be with his wife, or they might just still be in a vault somewhere at Forest Lawn. But apparently that's where they are located. I was just curious. You know, I'm always curious where people die, and then where they're also buried or scattered. So the story goes that after a night of heavy drinking, he was killed by a gunshot wound to the chest here in his Palm Springs home. Now, the articles don't mention the address or the Palm Springs home, so I'm just going by what Tammy told me. The person who lived at this house said that he was the owner of the house. So I haven't confirmed that, so if any of you want to confirm that, yeah, please let us know. You know, if you're able to, you know, find his death certificate and if it gives the address of where he died. It's always nice to confirm these things, but at least this was a story I was told, that he purchased the house from Gloria Swanson when she sold. And that after a night of heavy drinking with his wife, and his wife was Reeve King Pearson. And apparently, after the police talked to the wife, it was never really clear if she shot him, or if he shot himself, or if it was just an accidental gunshot by one or the other. So it still remains a mystery today, unless any of you have updated information on this, verified updated information. The case still remains a mystery, although the Palm Springs police chief did rule it an accidental shooting. But as far as I can tell, there weren't a lot of news articles at the time about this, so it's unclear exactly what happened. But it did happen on February 24th, 1937, and he was only 43 years old. So if any of you do have additional information you'd like to add, please share with us in the comments section. That's one of the reasons that I do these videos, is because I love Palm Springs history, but a lot of it is very sketchy, and a lot of it is hearsay and stories and legends that have been shared over the years, and some of it hasn't been proven, and some of it is still mysterious and nobody knows for sure. So my thought is, by doing videos like this, where I share the story and the information that's currently available, if people come along and know additional information, updated information, they can share in the comments section, and we can just help keep some of these stories alive, keep the history alive, but also to hopefully make it more accurate or fill in some of the missing details of some of these stories of things that happen here in Palm Springs. Similar to the way so many deaths in Hollywood were mysterious. And, you know, I guess just a lot of these things happen way back, you know, decades and decades ago, when maybe they didn't have as much forensic information or DNA information or ways to really know for sure what happened. And also records they didn't have Find a Grave back then. They didn't have websites with all of the information about where people lived and where they died, and a lot of the newspaper articles aren't still around. And so it's much more difficult, especially the older these stories are. So anyway, thanks for joining me once again on this trip to the past to remember just a little bit more of Palm Springs history. So until next time, thanks for sharing the memories, everybody.